as well. Okay. So last week we left at like, okay, we know what a servlet is, and we know what do get, do post. All these are like various methods that we do override. But do get and do post are like most commonly used. But the question that has been raised was like, when do we use do put? When do we use do options and stuff like that? So here I just attempted to showcase some of the examples, like what are all the various methods that we can support in a servlet. Okay, so hopefully by now you guys are really clear on what a do get and do post does in our previous session. Okay, the question was like, what is the difference between a do put and a do post? According to the spec, think about it like not just an HTTP request. Think about it like you are doing an FTP to somebody. So all these are actually started from socket programming, right? Like you establish a connection to a socket, and you try to instruct the socket like what operation you want to do. So all this started from there. If you think about it in this perspective, okay, client is talking to a server, establishing a socket connection, and then he's asking you whether you want to get something from that socket, or write something using that socket, or read something, or know what all the options that are being supported, or place something like update a file or something like that. Okay? So if you think perfect example is the FTP thing, that's a different protocol, but I'm not confusing you guys. That's a file transfer protocol, and here we are talking about HTTP protocol. But to create the concept for you, like put is like you're actually placing a resource on a remote repository, or you're placing a resource on a server. Okay? So usually when you're uploading a file, you use put according to the specification. And if you say, oh, why do I use put? I will use post. You can use post, or you can support put also calling a post, no problem. But where we left at was, okay, how to do these interactions, right? Another difference, because of your question, I understood as well, is generally do get and do post are being supported by normal HTTP form, which we also saw in the last class. But do put, do options, do delete, all these are like actually tunneled requests. You cannot make direct call from a form from a JSP or HTTP, but you can hijack the request. Like to showcase you guys the example, what I did was this is the form. You guys, can you guys see my JSP page right now?
Yes.
Okay, on the JSP page, what I did was, okay, this is my form. This is my name of the form and ID. What I did was, when you click on submit here, I hijacked it. This is actually jQuery, or like you can, if you know JavaScript a little bit. JavaScript is like nothing but scripting language. You can do some asynchronous requests, like you don't want page to reload. Like it tries to access the um, dynamic object model that's been displayed on the UI on the browser, and it gets a handle of those elements dynamically and tries to perform some action. That is JavaScript. If somebody who doesn't know JavaScript, what it does is dynamically, say for example, to give you a little more better example, I remember like if you're on any sports website like ESPN.com or something like that, asynchronously, what it does, it keeps on, whether you are looking at that browser or not, it keeps on updating the scores, right, on its own. You don't need to do anything. Or if you look at any trading platforms, like if you want to see S&P, how is it performing today, if you just launch that website and keep it, it keeps on updating on its own. Like dynamically, something is actually invoking server to update the latest data. So these kind of requests are all sent through JavaScript. That means something on the client side, there is an there is a timer set. Oh, okay. Poll the server every few minutes. Poll the server every 30 seconds. So client sees the dynamic data. Previously, in the olden days, we got to actually refresh the page. Until you refresh the page, you don't really know what to do, right? What happened behind the scenes until you refresh. But that concept is gone. Like you are actually dividing your page, bigger page, into smaller sets of components, and each component can be dynamically being rendered. Like make a request to the server and display the data, latest data there, right? So like that, there are like bunch of frameworks that came in on the client side too, and Ajax is one of those. Like you don't want to refresh the entire page, but you just want to refresh only the content of the page, like a particular component on the page. That's when you use something called Ajax or jQuery. Okay, jQuery is one of the framework for JavaScript. Like if you look at the requirements from next month, you see a lot of people ask for HTML5, jQuery, and Java and stuff like that. So this is how, if you want to get a little bit idea on how to use JavaScript, jQuery, what you do is similar to how we do an import in any Java code. Here you're going to import what scripting library that you're using. I'm using jQuery library here, registering it for my JSP page. And what I'm saying is on load on of my document, okay, register these components. That means save, name of my button is save. Whenever somebody clicks on save, hijack this. Like on click method is being handled like this. Okay, on click. So when somebody clicks on save, um, capture that on click and do a Ajax call. So what I'm doing is I'm not doing a formal submit method. If you compare it like what I did last week, let's go to my local history. See here, during our session on 24th, probably, right? During our session on 24th, let's see from here or somewhere here, right? My stuff used to look like this, like put method, or let me go a little forward where we had like post method, right? Okay, see here, I used to have a post method here and no jQuery, right? This method is to take care of invoking my servlet. Do you see this? So, but what I'm doing right now, a change here is, okay, hijack it. Whenever somebody clicks on submit, save, handle it in a different way. What am I doing in the handling part? I'm sending an Ajax request. Whenever you are using an Ajax request, you are not waiting for the response actually. Ajax came into existence, like, say, for example, Google Suggest is a good example of Ajax. See here, like what we do in Google Suggest, right? The moment you start typing D, it starts showing these, right? So these are like Ajax requests. Dynamically, um, we are sending some request to the server, and it is giving us response. So these are all examples of Ajax. That means you are not waiting for the response. Okay, synchronous request meaning you are waiting for the response. Asynchronous request meaning you are not waiting for the response. Okay. So that being said, so I sent an Ajax request, and here I am sending the type as put because this guy does not support put. You guys remember that, right? Method, it supports only get and post here, right? It doesn't support put and all that stuff. So what I did was I put a type put. So that's when it started invoking our put method. Previously, we were not able to do that, right? Let's go ahead and try it out. Oh, probably my server is not up. So did you guys all install Tomcat and all that stuff?
Yes.
Were you able to execute a sample?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Let me see my Tomcat if it is up or not. Tomcat encountered a problem because server is already in use. Let's see. So it cannot start my server for some reason. Okay. Looks like some process is still hijacking my Tomcat. Let me actually go ahead and kill my Tomcat. Okay, connection refused. Okay, so now my Tomcat is up and running. Let's go here so I can. Okay, so now I have a debug pointer in put, and ideally it has to invoke my put method. Let's go and see. See, we were not able to do this debug through farm before, and now jQuery provided a support to put method, and it let me actually invoke it. But there is one catch here. The moment you started using stuff like this, like jQuery, it may introduce some dependency on the browser. Like this piece of jQuery code, um, I was using Chrome, right? It worked on Chrome. It invoked it on Chrome properly. But here, let's see here. This is Firefox, okay? When I use Firefox, the same request, okay, this is how you debug a JavaScript code, okay? If you are not aware of this, this is called Firebug. Like if there is an error, like now lot and lot of applications like Twitter and all these guys are coming up with various frameworks on top of jQuery and all that. So if you were to debug any JavaScripting code, all you do is, okay, you launch like this. Like you say, let me close this one. I'm just giving you for like you can understand what all is happening around. So you can say inspect with Firebug. Okay, so that's when it launches this guy, and you can go to a script page and you can reload your script. So you'll see all your latest script that you have on your form page, on your current page, and you can select, okay, and you can select, and what happens is when I actually do something here and click on submit, okay, I think it starts loading that form. See here, okay, that's when you can also debug JavaScript is what I'm trying to say here, okay. That's when Firebug is helpful. Okay, Firebug is a plugin for Firefox, and you can actually do it. Yeah, it's mostly been used by all the UI developers, and if you say you know it as well, it's better, all the way better. On top of all that, if you want to debug anywhere, I like to debug, like even whether it's on server or whether it's on client side. So that's why I try to find out tools that help me debug, and this Firebug is one of those. Okay? Debugging is the best way how you can learn how the code is working. Like if you are on a current project and you go straight away, you're being given a bunch of code, and to pick up and become a top performer, you should know what all existing stuff is doing, right? So debugging is the one that helps you do all the stuff, like learn your project in a week, and next week onwards you can be productive. Nobody can be productive from day one because they may not know the project, right? So you should understand the project, like how they are doing this stuff, how they are doing that stuff. Then I learned personally, like, okay, this is the project that's been given. Okay, I was given a task. Okay, where all this kind of stuff is there in the application? How did they do it? I debugged it. Okay, this is how they do it. I actually adapt the same thing on my task, and I'm good. So I know one side of the project. So that's how you can pick up. So this is one way to learn. I'm not saying like this is the only way. This is one way to learn that can help you out in your projects. Okay, so that being said, all the stuff here I'm debugging it. See, here you can use this guy, debug it. But see, it did not invoke exact same code, did not invoke my servlet. because once you introduce jQuery, whether some people agree or not, bringing in a browser dependency. Previously, there was no browser dependency for us, right? We could execute bunch of stuff even on Firefox. Okay, so it's been supported by only few, it is supported by jQuery framework, but even in their specification they say like not all browsers support this. Okay, it's up to the browser. Chrome probably supports it, Firefox doesn't support it. So all I'm trying to say is, okay, you can invoke put from UI, but it is not a standard way. The things put, options, delete, and do trace and do head are designed for doing a tunneling request. What is tunneling request? Like this. Remember, we were looking at something called Ajax, like REST client. So using this kind of stuff, you can actually do whatever you want. It's not an HTTP form. It actually establishes a socket and all that stuff. Not like the UI form submit. Okay. So like this, you can go and you can invoke your own servlets like however you want. Okay, this is your JSP, right? Or you can give your servlet name. What is the name of the servlet? Hello, right? Servlets slash hello, and you can do whatever you want. If you want to submit a GET request, it does the GET request. Send it. It goes to GET. Fine. If you want to do a POST request, send. It invokes a POST. Fine. Post internally calls get, which is the implementation that we provided. And then let's see, put method. These are all like tunneling requests, right? I want to use put method. It doesn't let me say select anything. Why it is not letting me say? Okay, right. Put. So it invokes put directly, right? So you give different implementations. They updated a certain resource, thinking put will always give a content that you want to put it. Like standard ways to put something on the server. And if you want to give same implementation as post, you can give. No worries. Okay. And then I don't know. Patch is for REST APIs, but let's see here. Delete. Okay. I think I have a delete implementation as well, saying like something got deleted. There are like options. Yeah, let's see here, delete, probably called delete. So you need not do anything extra. That client is taking care of how to invoke these guys, right? Then head. Head actually, whether you give an implementation of head on your own or not, what it does is it actually does the, even if you have a do get, I think it can be handled, and it gives only the header, not the object. Like get may bring in the resource for you, right? Get may bring in whatever is the response that it has, but head, what it does is it executes the same thing as do get, but it will not bring the resource. It will just bring the information about the resource, like what is the size of it, what is the content of it, that kind of stuff. Okay, let's execute it in two phases. Let's execute do head first and see my implementation, which is like do get, right? So it invoked do get, similar to do head. And what is the response? Response does not contain any data. See here, this is the response that we got. We did not get anything like okay, this is the response, right? Compare it with get. Just compare it with get here. See here, response previously with the head is content and this, right? Now look at the response of get. Response of get is like HTTP response that we gave, right? Like info about the servlet request, hello Ravi. This is all, even we used to see the same thing even on the browser. But now what is happening when you execute head, it's not returning this particular content that I'm highlighting here, right? That's the difference. Like if you highlight it here, though it is executing same thing as do get, but it is only showing a header. It is not showing anything else. Okay, that's the difference between do get and do header. And let's see what is the do options provide. Okay, do options, and click on this. So I provided an implementation for do options as well. What does it say? Do option shows whatever I set here, right? It will allow get head post, because we allowed only those methods, whatever I mentioned here. So allowed methods are these. That's all. So it's not going to. So the thing is, okay, we have each of these methods, and now to answer your question in short, get is used to get the thing from the server for a given requested URL. Post is used to update the data, whether it can be file, whether it can be form parameters, and all that stuff. Head is similar to get, but head will bring in only the header of the get response. It will not get the actual content of what get is returning back. Trace is actually used to debug. Okay, you are submitting some form parameters, whether server is receiving those form parameters or not. Put is used to update the enclosed object in a particular URL. Delete is used to delete a particular resource at an enclosed URL. Options is used to actually display the list of methods a particular servlet or a requested URL is supporting. Okay, and then connect. Finally, these are all like sockets, right? Says to connect for a purpose of tunneling. So you can also implement a connect method, override connect method, which helps you in actually putting in the connect logic, like socket logic, like how you want tunneling code. Right now, you did not implement tunneling. That's why all these tunneling requests go in a default behavior way. That means somebody has given an implementation like how tunneling should work. But if you want to override, you know how tunneling works. And if you want to override, okay, if a tunnel request comes in, make it secure, ask for some passwords, ask for some private key, and all that stuff. If you want to bring in those kind of stuff, you can actually override the connect method as well. Okay, so these are the methods that you should be aware of. Like I hope it's clear, but I tried adjusting it to the best possible font. I don't know whether it's clear or not. If you look at my slide, you will have all the definitions, like what exactly each of those does. Okay, and if you look at this sample, I'm going to upload this sample also to you guys. If you look at this sample, this can tell you what each of these methods does logically. And you can probably say, like, I know all the methods in servlet, but predominantly, even till now, I used to ask people, or I heard people asking me, do mostly about do get and do post. They don't just worry about this. If somebody asks you, now you are clear, because we spent a lot of time on this method, these methods. Okay, so any questions? This gave a pretty much idea about where we were stuck in the last class, or still anything you want me to repeat? Oh yes, okay,
Yes.
okay. So, so that being said, let's move forward a little bit. Okay. So I think we were at this part, and we were stuck on this. So let's see. Okay. So probably we know pretty much all these, like get request sends it to servlet request, and servlet generates a response and it sends back. Right. So this is where we went on to our sample. Okay. Mm, okay. Transferring info from browser to servlets. Okay. So let's see it from here. So generally in web pages, users fill up a form with fields. Browser communicates with the server through either get or post or one of these methods, and get request getting the information and append the URL in the query string. Like whatever parameters that you're passing will be in the query string like this, right? That's what we saw. Anything after question mark is nothing but a query string. And then post request, sending information, send any amount of data. That's the difference between get and post. Fine. And getting the information, you guys know now get and post. So now let's move forward. So write a HTML with three text boxes for the name, ID, and location with a submit button. Set the form method as get and action as servlet slash servlet get param, and do this. So this is one of the exercises for you guys, similar to how we did HTTP get, but instead of that HTTP get servlet, you are going to probably use like what he asked for. Like your request should be servlet dot slash servlet get param. Try it out. If you don't get it, probably we can discuss. Okay. Any questions on this particular exercise? Or if you guys want to discuss it to get comfortable, I can do that one as well. I will not give the exercise right away. Probably we can discuss it a little more. Okay, so this is our servlet code, existing servlet code, right? Let's talk about one of these samples that this guy is talking about. This one, right? Servlet image. Is this the one? Servlet get HTML. Sorry. Let's go here. Okay. Okay. So here, what are we talking about? What's the exercise? Write a HTML with three text boxes for name, ID, and location. Okay. So let's take a look at our sample right now. HTTP actions has something, right? In the same way, I'm going to say copy. I'll create one more. Any JSP, anything related stuff will be in web content, right? So let's go and create, what do we call this? Something like this. I just want to make things short. Okay. So what do we want to do here? We don't want to do any Java, jQuery stuff or anything. Simple, right? Simple like what he is asking for. Write HTML with three text boxes. So right now I have only one text box. Okay. This is only one text box that I had. Instead, what he's asking for is two text boxes, right? Let's do that. Name, I'm just making it like bold or something. This is HTML code. Okay. Name. And you can put it in a table if you want to, or a div if you want to. Just showing you guys like how to do tables and all that stuff here. You can put it in a table and row. Okay. And then you can have two columns here. TD. Okay. So that means it's like a table that has two columns. Okay. And one row here, right? In the same way, for all the three parameters, I need to put three. What is it here? ID. So you're going to give a different name to it. This one is called name. This one is called ID. name, id, and what else you want to capture here? Location, right? So location, and on submit data you want to send it as, what did he say? Write HTML with 3 text fields for name, id, and this with a submit button. So we have a submit button named save. You can put it as,
Ravi,
yeah,
on third TD, it will be location.
yeah, I did not modify it there. Okay, yeah. Okay, thanks. Okay, so here you have submit. Okay, so you're good. Here you have submit. Then what is he saying? It set the form method as get. So that means here it is default get. Okay, that means you don't need to specify anything. Default is get always. And action as servlet slash servlet get param. Okay, so let's see what it does. So how did we put our action before in the past? Do you guys remember that? Let's go see how we did it. This is probably our first implementation, right? So we said hello, right? This, right? But this guy wants us to put it as servlet slash servlet get param. Okay. Let me show how we are going to treat it, right? Servlet slash, okay. So servlet slash servlet get param. Now what? You have this form action. Where will you define other stuff like how the URL pattern gets resolved to servlet? We know, right? Here. So take this URL, take the servlet, and this one. Okay. So now you put this request, right? Request. Now you can have like what is the name of the servlet that you want? You can have a servlet by name servlet get param, some name, right? Give another name here. Go to here, and what's the name of your servlet? This is the one, right? Usually, what is the mistake in here? Usually your classes will be starting with the uppercase, right? We do it here, finish, and so you have a servlet param here. Go ahead, copy the qualified name, go back to web.xml, okay, put it here, okay. So this is my, so whatever request comes in, I'm mapping it to this servlet. So request comes to my servlet now. Good. Servlet has the request. And what is he asking us to do? Write HTML with this, and it should invoke this guy. That's all. That's what he's trying to say. Nothing else, right? But here we gave an implementation like how to iterate through the list of request parameters that are being given. Okay, so that means anything that is at the query string, we are capturing it in a string and then displaying the output. Okay, displaying the output. And also what we are doing is, okay, if not from the query string, we are also reading it from request.get parameter names. That means anything that you submitted will be in the HTTP servlet request. So from that you are getting it as a parameters, right? I'll not confuse too much. What I'm trying to say here is, we'll talk about it a little later, okay? So that way you'll not be confused, and I'll explain after we execute this, okay? One step at a time. Okay, so let me go back to our servlet. So it says, okay, so I'll just put whatever is the query string that's been displayed, passed to the server. I just want to display only that in the browser. Let's see that first. Okay. Okay. So anything else we need to do from your experience on the last class? You got a form, you gave a URL, and you identified the URL pattern, mapped it to servlet name. It gets resolved to servlet get parameter. Go to servlet get parameter class. Within that, you have implemented do get. Default is do get, so this should get invoked, right? Anything else that you guys can think about? Okay, so now we did this. So server, what we are trying to do here is clean. That means I'm actually pushing it to Tomcat. Okay, start the server. I started a server. Now, how do we invoke this JSP, right? Previously, we invoked HTTP form, right? HTTP actions.jsp. In the same way, data post.jsp. See here, data post.jsp, right? That's the right one. Data post.jsp. Okay, data post. It displayed, right? Name, ID, location, and submit query, right? So now I'm giving some data here, and some data here. Okay. And now I want to click on submit, so it should get resolved to something, right? It should go to my do get method. Let's click on submit. So it showed a error. See here, servlet slash servlet get parameter 404 exception. It's the most common thing. You worked on JSP and servlets and you did not get a 404 or a 500. That means you never developed it. Okay. So 404 is like request not found. Okay, requested resource not found. Why it did not find anything? Can one of you tell me? See here, I put like servlet, right? All this is in servlets project. Okay, all this is in servlets project. But what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to do look for something in a servlet project. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So probably what I got to be doing is I'm just trying to showcase something here. See here. What does it say here? Error instantiating. So this is the next one. com.divantech.servlet get parameter. Okay. That means it did not find the class that I am looking for. Okay. So this is the 500 error. 404 is like when something is not identified. Now something is identified, but it is not able to instantiate com dot this one dot servlet get param, right? Servlet get param dot java is not identified. So if you look at our class, it is there, right?
Ravi,
Yeah.
Ravi,
Yeah, go ahead.
forward slash? Can we
Hmm?
use forward slash?
Where?
Servlet over here.
Uh-huh.
Can we use that? Means once we can try. Sometimes it happens that because of forward and backward slash, sometimes it gives the error and it is not able to get connected.
I'm sorry. For what? Like, so
We
the
have
error
to
you are
find.
thinking is because of that?
Sometime it happens.
No,
Means
no. What I'm trying to say is, when you got a 400 error, as you said, you can try different things. That means it is
okay,
not even hitting the server.
okay, hmm,
But if you look at the error right now, it hit the server. 500 is like it hit the server, but it's not able to find something.
okay,
So
hmm,
read the
hmm,
error here, like what it is saying, class not found. That means that particular class is not found. Which class? Com dot eventech dot servlet dot servlet get parameter class is not found.
okay,
Okay.
okay,
So
hmm.
if that class is not found, what you got to do? You got to see. Okay. You got to
Like
see. Okay.
the mapping,
What is it?
mapping.
Okay. So let's see. Why we are not able to find that class?
Ravi, you have changed the URL pattern, and over here you didn't change the URL pattern.
Oh, here.
Mm.
That can be a good catch. Somebody is following. Yeah, that can be good catch. But let me actually try something else before that. Okay. And you got to understand here, what is it trying to do here? Servlets slash servlet, all the stuff that we are giving, right? Let's go back to our original page. Okay. So here, so previously, why it could not identify is because we used to have lowercase servlet get parameter, and now I renamed it, right? So I renamed it, but that recompiled version did not go in. That's why it says like class not found. That's why you got to read the errors very carefully. So you will know the answer there itself from the error. Okay. But I like the thought process that you put in, Rini, this web.xml. Why we still need to have a slash here is because this is the relative URL pattern. Okay. This is the relative URL pattern. All I'm trying to do here is when I did not put a slash, look at the URL. When I did not put a slash, it is appending to this is our root application, right? HTTP colon localhost root. What is our application name? Servlets, right? When I did not put a slash, where did it go? It went to servlet. It went to like it removed this guy, right? It removed this guy and placed it here. Do you remember that? When we just put a slash here,
Yes, Ravi.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
it removed the root. That means there is something called root context. Okay, there is something called root context and relative context. Okay, so let's talk about that in a little bit. What I'm trying to say here is when I did not put anything in here, it it appended to the root context. What is the root context for our application? Servlets, right? So it attached it to servlets. When I start putting in a slash, see what happens again. Okay. So what it replaced with? It is thinking servlet is my root. It is thinking servlet is my root, right? That means the why we are getting 404 here. It is not even hitting our servlets project. That's the problem. Do you see that? It is not even hitting our servlets project. It is hitting something else.
Yes, Ravi.
It is thinking servlet is a project that we have, and within that, it is trying to look for this resource, which is why it is throwing a 404. Whenever 404 is there, it's not even hitting the server. Any code that starts with 5, that means something on the server side. Like it hit the server, but within the server, it is not able to find something. That's how you got to proceed with the errors. And the same thing, how else you can fix it? Let's see. Let's see what this guy is going to do. Did it get published? Let me see. So whatever changes you have made should be in sync. It should be in synchronized mode. If it says republish, you have to publish it. Okay. See, even the dot dot didn't do any magic for us, right? Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Ravi,
So let's see.
Ravi.
Yeah.
Um, I just don't remember why we used to have means sometimes when it doesn't hit the server, we used to use forward slash. So why we use forward slash means in space
Meaning,
of
which one you're
backward
talking about? This
slash.
one?
Like means you have written servlet
Uh huh.
and then we used to have forward slash means sometimes and then it used to hit it means is
Like
it you
this?
have done sometime?
Like this?
Yeah, sometime. Yeah,
I don't
both we
know.
have to change. Both we have to change.
Mm,
I don't remember the reason, but we used to use this. Means sometimes it's work.
I don't know. Maybe you were using Windows and let me see.
You have to remove dot dot. Then I think so it
Oh
will
yeah.
work.
And this will hit it.
Uh, Sometimes it used to work. Means it's fairly told by our seniors that forward slash can be used as backward slash.
Mm,
It's not working. I don't know
that,
the reason.
that's probably Windows. I'll explain
Don't.
which context that you're talking about.
It went through, right?
No, it did not. See here. Did you see?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can remove
So
forward.
probably where
Okay.
your seniors must have told is in the fully qualified path.
Mm-hmm.
For absolute path, when you're reading a file or something, if you're giving in a you got to give two slashes. You got to give when you're reading when you're giving a fully qualified path for a reading a file. If you're using a forward slash, you got to give two slashes. Whereas if you give a backward slash, you can give one, something like that. In Windows it used to work like that. I remember what you're talking about. um, or I can probably write something. I'm just trying to recollect. Mm, 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 mm. Our IOs. Let's see. here, say file input demo here. So instead you got to give like this, right? Okay. Instead of doing this, if I give like this, it will not complain. Maybe that's where you guys must have had that. If I give just this one, it will complain. See here. Maybe similar context like this is what I am guessing, but I may not be right. But you were talking in terms of this context.
Actually, Ravi, I was talking in terms of this only context. They means I have also worked. Means I didn't remember right now. Many things I didn't remember right now.
Maybe
At that
Windows.
time I worked.
I don't
Maybe
know.
something different. Yeah,
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay. I'll try or try the same example in Windows and tell me like I am not using Windows. Maybe that's why I cannot identify what you're referring to. Okay. That being said, so now this will not invoke, right? That being said, you could have just said nobody can beat this one. Oh, okay. So all I'm trying to showcase here is name of the project, like which is this is your root context, which is servlets slash give your servlet path. Then you're good. Like even if it gets replaced, you're okay, right? So now go back to your this one. I want to show the servlet. Okay, it went to our servlet, right? Servlet get param. Go here string. So whatever URL pattern that you are passing in is displayed in the query string, right? Which is kind of nice. From the request, you are calling request dot get query string, and then we are displaying all the stuff that is being there in the query string. Okay, all the stuff in the query string, and we're displaying it here. Good. So we got whatever we are passing. Okay, nice. Now I commented out this part, right? Let's see. Okay, here what I'm talking about is you don't know what are the request parameters that have been passed. Okay, you don't have a handle to query parameters. Okay, so what we are trying to do here is we're trying to get the request dot get parameter names, and then what we are trying to do is get the name request dot get parameter value. Okay, so that is going to give you array of the elements of values that you are getting in from the servlet, and you are displaying it. Why we do get parameter values as an array? Because each and every element can have more than one value. Say for example, you have a combo box or multi-select box, right? Where you can select more than one options from the UI. So that's why if there is only one element, this array will display only one element. If there is more than one element for that particular parameter that's been passed, you get more than one element displayed. Okay, fine. So without knowing what is being passed, if you want to enumerate, okay, if you want to list all the stuff that's been there on the server, this is how you are going to do. Okay, let's go back. Let me do a republish. So it's asking me to restart the server. Let's do a restart. It is still stopping me. Okay. Okay. Let's go back. So like that is going to display. So data sent through get params, it did not display anything. Why? String buffer should get appended to whatever values that have been there. Because there is no string buffer attached to the response, it's not displayed. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Here dot to string. Okay, let me now execute one more time. All right. Okay, so it also displays like id is this, this is what we identify. Okay, so that's how you can capture, even if you don't know all the parameters, you can capture it on the server using request.get parameter names. Okay, one is request.get parameter. If you know a particular name, you want to display only the ID, all you're going to do is like this. If you know a particular name, you're going to do something like this. Request.get parameter ID. If you just want to get ID, okay, something like this. So what you're going to do here is I'm interested in only ID, so I just captured only ID. Okay, okay, only ID. If I am interested in something else, I'll capture that. If you don't know any names, you are going to use the enumeration like that and display all the stuff. Okay, this is how you capture. Like if you fill up a sign up form like Yahoo or anything, this is how you capture all the requests on the server and you iterate through those values and set it to some object. Like say for example, you have a user object which is mapped to Hibernate or database. So you populate all the data in a user.java from the form in a servlet and then send it to database, okay, as a like user.java. So hibernate session dot save user, that will save the data that you posted. Are you guys getting the context? Like how you can register a user. Uh, you capture everything that you posted from the client on the server, and server will capture all the data that's been posted, and we submit the data. And you can do validations either at the client side using jQuery, like okay, invalid address, invalid length of the password, characters not allowed, all that stuff on the UI on form submit, or and also on the server side at the servlet level. Like this servlet is there right now, right? The servlet that you have written that is there right now, servlet.getParam. In this case, we read all the requests, all the parameters, we validate. Okay, if something is not correct, we validate it right then and there, and we just throw it off. Okay, right then and there, and we just throw the data like, oh, this is incorrect, and we just throw it away. Okay, so like that, after all the validations are being passed, we get a object that we want. We set all these values to that object, and we save it to the database if we want to. Yeah. So this is kind of workflow that I'm talking about, like how to use servlet. Why we need servlet? It's because we made our Java code globally available on a web fancy page that is being used across the board, and we are capturing the data like in a user input way, friendly way on the server, validate it on the server, and also on the client if we want, and then push it to the server. So that way we will not put the garbage in the database. Okay. So that being said, let's move forward. So this is the example. So write a servlet with a do get method and all that. Okay. So we have it right now. So you guys can try this one off. Write a HTML with 3 text fields for our name, ID, location, and post, and using the post method. You guys know how to use a post, so you can do it. Then servlet request. So which is an important thing, right? So it is doing a lot of stuff for you and making things available for you in a request object. Okay. So this HTTP servlet request extends a servlet request. Okay. javax.servlet.http is the package that we predominantly use, but all the stuff in the HTTP servlet request is extending servlet request. So servlet request is doing a lot of stuff for us, and HTTP servlet request did a lot more and made a lot of stuff available for us as a on the server side as a HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. So we do very less compared to how all these requests are getting mapped to a request object and all that stuff, right? So let's see what this servlet request is all about. Servlet request about the client, name of the host, like who is invoking it, can also be identified. Like on the server, if I am administrating my server or putting some logs, I will know like across the like IP address of the client also I can log. Okay, if you are hitting my server, I can log like your host name, your IP address, and everything clearly if you are using my service. Okay, and these are all helpful in tracing stuff like who all are using across what all global locations we are getting requests to our website from, and all that can be identified by using by getting the name of the host and IP address. All these are available in the request object. Okay, where is the request object? Like here, do get has the request. Let me turn off the server. It does a lot of bunch of stuff. Okay, so do get or do post, all these methods have the request object. From here you can get a lot more stuff than what you're thinking, right? Get attribute, get context path, that means where exactly you are on right now, which path you are on right now. Header, you can get the header, get the address, name, and you can also get the remote host, that is your host, like who is invoking this path, remote port, which port you are using, what is your ID, like session ID, that means whoever established a session with the server, what is the ID of them, what is the request URL that is being invoked, and that could hit this server. So all this stuff is available for us in the request.get. Okay, so that means it does bunch of stuff and made it available for us. And you also have a bunch of stuff on the response. Okay, now we are trying to understand what does this request has and response has. So based on that, you can do bunch of more stuff. Right now you know how to access request, right? How to access parameters from request. So let's say a little more there. Request also has parameters sent from the client browser and scheme used by the browser to communicate, like scheme meaning protocol, whether it is the HTTP protocol that you're handling or FTP protocol. Like that, you can identify what protocol client is using, and access servlet input stream and servlet output stream, like some binary data that you want to read from client, or some binary data that you want to write onto the server. You can use streams. Okay, so information about the server, name of the server, port of the server, all these are available in a servlet request, and it is an interface. Okay, then so subclass. So subclass of servlet request to provide protocol specific information. So we are dealing with HTTP servlet request. That means it is being used only by HTTP protocol, and it has bunch of specific stuff related to only HTTP protocol, which implemented servlet request, and it gave us various methods. Okay? And servlet request has get content type, get input stream, get parameter names, get protocol, get reader. Not only writer input streams, but it also has a reader. Why do we use reader? Where do we use stream? Do you guys still remember? Can somebody tell me, where do you use stream? Where do you use a reader? Where do you use a stream and where do you use a writer? Do you guys remember? Are you guys with me?
Yes.
So where do you use a reader and where do you use a input stream?
If you want to read continuous bytes, then we use stream.
Mm-hmm.
Reader, I think only small amount of data.
Okay, somebody forgot. You're making it up, right?
I remember that much.
Yeah,
Not exactly, I don't remember that.
yeah. Anybody else can talk about it? So streams are used for, as you said, as you rightly said, for bytes. But readers and writers are used for characters. Like if you want to get the character data, that's when you use readers and writers. Whereas if you want to be in a byte stream, then you go with the input stream and output stream. That's when everything is represented in terms of bits and bytes. Whereas readers and writers are for characters. Both are like same level. Like if you say input stream and reader, both are same. One reads the characters and the other one reads the bytes. That's all. Mm. Okay, so these are all the methods that are available in a request, and we'll use one of these methods accordingly, like whatever, like based on our situation. So here, interface HTTP servlet. So what are we trying to do here? Um, Additional path information info, like sent. So what we are trying to do here is, uh, if you want to know like which path you are on, like servlets. Our project name is servlets, and anything that is after servlets slash is all nothing but path. Getting my point? So here, go back to our request. Anything after servlets is called path. Okay, path info. Okay, this is called path because it is relative to this guy. This is our web context, right? This is our context, which is servlets, and any URL that we invoke is after servlets, right? So anything after servlets, which is your root context or web context, anything after that slash is nothing but path. Okay, and anything after query string is nothing but sorry, anything after the question mark is nothing but query string. Okay, and these key value pairs are nothing but parameters. Okay, keys are parameter names, and values are nothing but parameter values. Okay, so this is the root context, and this is the relative path info. Okay, so if you want to get that path info, you're going to say servlet.getPathInfo is the method that you're going to use. Okay, request.getPathInfo. So what was requested? So if you want to see what was requested, you can find out. Then headers, you can find the headers. Okay. Then information not related to client or server or HTTP protocol can also be part of HTTP headers. And what is the content that has been passed? What is the content that has been requested? Okay. And preferred document formats, like HTTP headers contain general information, request information about the request. Like here he's referring to, if you look at our this one, he's referring to something like this. It has like general information, what happened to the invocation, whether it is successful or failure, request headers, response headers, what is the content, all this stuff. Like all this stuff we have in a HTTP header. This is all nothing but HTTP header information, request headers, response headers, and all that. Okay. Entity information on the data that is being sent. So what does HTTP header has? It has general information about the communication and whether it is successful or failure and all that stuff. And the request parameters that you posted, response that is being given by the server, and the entity, like anything, any information on the data that is being sent between client and server, like whether it's a bytes array or a HTML data or all that stuff, or a PDF data. So if you want to know all that kind of stuff, you will look at the entity. Okay. HTTP servlet request extends servlet request. So that's why you have specific to what HTTP related information, like query strings, and who is the remote user, what is the authentication type that he is using, what is the request URL path, what is the servlet path that you are on currently, and all that information, like what is session. We're going to talk about session in a bit. Okay. And then mm, is requested from session or sessions and cookies. We'll talk about it in a bit, but all this information you have it in the servlet. Okay. If you want to know more about it, you can just print it from here, right? So all you're going to do is, okay, you want to know request dot get servlet path. Okay. Servlet path, and you want to know path info. So you can see the difference between all these guys by exploring like this. Get path info. Okay. Let's see. Let's try to execute this guy. So like that, you can know each and every method that is available. Okay. So what are we going to do here? We'll just go back to servlets. Okay. So we came back in here. So servlet path is nothing but this. Okay. Path info is nothing but null. So what is the difference between servlet path and path info? That can be the next question, right? So even servlet has the API. So what we're going to do, servlet API. So we'll go back in here and HTTP, go to Java servlet as servlet request. So here, what is the method that we are looking for? Get path info. So see here, returns any extra path information associated with the URL. The client sent when it made this request. So the extra path information follows the servlet path by preceding the but precedes the query string and with a slash. Starts with a slash. Okay, so let's see here. So here, before the query string, what we can specify, right? Before the query string, Okay, so let's see here if it actually invokes or not. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I thought. So servlet, why path info is request dot get path info. Path info should not be null. So what it said, returns any extra path information associated with the URL the client sent when it made the request. And the extra path information follows the servlet path, but follows the servlet path, but precedes the query string and with will start with a slash character. Okay, but the method returns null if there was no extra path information. So we were actually looking for that path info. Let me actually see what is the path info.
Ravi,
Yeah,
Ravi,
yeah.
can you go back to the page where you changed it? You just changed the.
I changed it on the jQuery, like Firebug. I did not change it in our code. I changed it on this form that
Okay,
here. That's why. That's how this is helpful. Yeah. What do you want to do
okay,
here?
okay. No, and then means I didn't get it. Means I thought you changed on the main page. Okay,
No, I changed it just for this request. I did not change it in the data post. Data post JSP I did not touch. This is one other advantage of Firebug.
okay,
Like you can mimic something that you want to test without changing the actual code.
okay.
Like here itself, I can change the button name. Like this helps you in developing. Like okay, how does it look like and all that stuff.
Testing.
Yeah.
Uh, Ravi,
Yeah.
I think the changes made on the class means where we capture the info that only over there is the error, not over here. I don't think so.
What is it?
Means for the over here, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Request dot get path info. What happened? Mm, mm. I think over here we are from here we are not getting the value, not from that place, not from the main page.
Because we are not passing exactly what it is expecting. Path info, we are not passing exactly what it is expecting. That's why it is not getting set. Otherwise, it will be set, right?
Okay.
Like path info exactly like this. If I change it here, it will try to look for that particular servlet, right? But it has to be after the servlet path, which is this. This is our servlet path. So I was just wondering how it will know after servlet path if I pass something. Okay? This is servlet path. So this guy says this is the query string, right? Path info. So like this. This is a servlet. Um, so this is what he's talking about. See, context path is the name of the servlet that we have. servlet path, like context path is the app name here in this case. Servlet path is ABC, which is ABC, and slash path info should give the name of the servlet. Okay, path info should give the name of the servlet. I think okay, let me go back to this guy here, servlets and hello, right? And name of the servlet, so app name, servlet name, name of the servlet. But that let me see, this is our JSP right now, right? So this is the app name. This is the this is the name of the servlet for us. That's the problem. This is the name of the servlet. Instead, app name, uh, app name, after app name, what he got? Servlet path. This is not just the servlet path for us. For us, this is the servlet path. Okay, let me go and in the same way. Okay, this guy is hello. Let me just say here. Why I cannot edit this one at all? Oh, probably this is the history. Okay, this is servlets, and we can say hello. Right? This is my name of the servlet. Okay, okay, okay. I just want to remove this stuff. I don't want to do that. I'll give you guys this one later. Which is right. So I'm going to say hello like this. Now it should work. Okay. So here we want to say request dot get path info, right? So let me see what this guy shows up. Null still. So if you look at our HTTP actions, we have hello, which is the name of the servlet, right? Name of the servlet, and then I'll say test path info, right? Let's see what this does. Okay, so let me go back. Okay, so this one, cool. Now when I click on submit, it will go. Yeah. So okay. path info gets confused with the servlet path that we are posting. Then how do people post it? Um, how do people post the path info? It's interesting. Let me see. Did I lose that? We do have something. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is request.get path info. He says this. So path info. Okay. So how did he send the request here? Take a look at it. So he sent blog tag and then this one. Okay, I forgot to mention that URL I hit to generate this output was this. So this is the servlet. This is the his server. This is his application. This is his servlet, and he put in a slash this one, right? When he put in a slash that one, how servlet will not complain, right? So that means he should be doing something in the web.xml, right? So the URI, request URI is this. Tag is his servlet. So getting the information from the request. Okay, path info. Let's see. So they have, okay, this one can help us. See here. Here we have a servlet name. And here request.get path info not equals to null. Then we display path info. But how are we displaying path info? Real path info, real path of the servlet or this one. Okay. So how he would have hit it? Okay. He would have hit it straight like name of the servlet. He doesn't even have servlet class. Servlet name and URL pattern is this. Okay, let's see. But I don't really understand how he did. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So let's see this project that what he did. Where is it? Okay. So what they did here is they have this server. Nothing much, right? So but how is it hitting that servlet? For us, it is saying like it cannot hit. Okay, let me add it to. I'm trying to convert this guy to a web project. configure it as Maven project. I just want to convert it to web project. So what I'll do is build path, configure build path, add library, web app libraries. Nah, doesn't identify the project. So all I can do is, so it has the API there. No, nothing much he's doing here. So index.jsp, whenever he hits index.jsp, my servlet will be invoked. Yeah, so that's when he's let's see here in our project web.xml here. Can also add a this one, something like this one thing, something called okay. So any URL that's been invoked, or what I'll do is anybody invokes JSP page also. Okay, so index.html, or anybody that invokes our URL default goes to this servlet. Okay, let me see that. Yeah, probably that helps me in configuring it properly. Okay, so come on, start. Okay, so we started the server here. I'll go back to servlets. So whoever invokes just the servlets, previously we never used to go anywhere, right? Now it goes to servlet get param. That's the idea. Okay, servlet get param, and let's see what happens there. Okay, default goes to servlet param. And now get path info. What does it have? Null, right? Servlet path does not exist, path info does not exist. Okay, fine. So now what I'm going to say is servlets, name of the servlets, test, and path info. Okay, like this. Okay, so anything with a slash is a servlet here. Okay, still it goes to servlet not get path info. See now, Okay. So path info is whatever you passed, like servlets slash test. So this slash itself is a servlet for us, right? Okay. So now I can configure and explain better here like this. So anybody who says slash info is a servlet. Okay. Slash info is a servlet. And I should say slash star. Anybody who says slash info star is this servlet. Okay, so whoever says info slash something, then that becomes a servlet path. That becomes a servlet path, and anything after info, okay, anything after info will be our path info. Let's see that. Okay, let's see my config change that I just did. Okay, so here servlet slash info slash, if I do, then it goes and hits that servlet, and then rest all will be servlet path. Let's see. So it hit that servlet. Servlet path is slash info, and path info is this. Okay, so uh, this is how you got to do. Like previously, why it did not work, our previous examples, is because I did not put slash star. So I'll go away from here this. Okay, so what I'm saying is, okay, anything that starts with servlet slash servlet get param is this servlet, and you should also accept anything after that. Previously I was not accepting that. That's the reason it is saying like a servlet not found. Okay, so go back in here. All right, so now you got to do servlet slash, and what we used to do post.jsp, data post.jsp, test test these three, and then submit. So I went in here, so our servlet got invoked just like how it used to before, and right now you'll not get any path info. Probably only servlet info gets displayed, probably, is what I'm thinking. So servlet info is servlet slash this one, but path info I did not pass anything extra. See, that's why it is null. Now I'll pass something extra. See here, just like how you guys asked me in the past. Okay, so let me go here, inspect with the JSP, and what I did here, slash test path info. Okay, so now that's my request, and I send this one, and this one, and I'll say submit. Okay, so let's see. Servlet path, is servlet path, and what is the path info? The path info that you passed. Okay, so it wasn't working before because I was not accepting anything after. Okay, I was saying like, okay, if my URL pattern is slash servlet get param, then only go to this servlet. I'm not accepting anything after by using a wildcard slash star. That's why it wasn't working before. But if you have accepted something like that, then it accepts, it hits the servlet and it displays the path info. Are you guys with me? Any questions? So this is the web context, this is the servlet path in our case, and this is the path info, and these are all the query strings. Okay, understood? Are you guys with me?
Yes.
Yeah, for a moment I thought I was disconnected. Okay. Okay. Any questions here? This is important. You guys should know this. Based on this, you will redirect stuff and all that. Like this is the root context. This is our web context. Both are same. And this is your servlet path. No, not servlet path. This is your servlet path because I gave that way. And this is our servlet path info. Okay. And path info. And this is the query string. Okay. Cool. Let's move on. So like anything that you get a question, you have to explore something like this. Okay. Then example, write a servlet that implements doGet method, capture the information encapsulated in the request object, and send this back info back to the client. This is what we were doing from the beginning, right? Yeah. Then servlet response allows the servlet to reply to the client, and allows the servlet to set the content length and MIME type. That means whether it's an HTML, like we are setting the content type in all our things, right? Text or HTML, text or PDF, all this. This HTML, PDF, or image, all that stuff is a MIME type, okay? Standard types in the HTML. And then provide a handle to the servlet output stream to send the data to the client. That's the duty of servlet response. And subclass is HTTP servlet response. Supports methods to set more protocol specific headers. Okay. We say set the content length. Like if you look at the servlet response, it has content type, what kind of content that's been displayed, print writer, and what kind of encoding we are doing on that content and stuff like that. Okay. Then HTTP servlet response, we add the cookie, like if it is like HTTP specific, we have bunch of stuff like cookie, we add the cookie, and encode the URL if nobody wants to see it. If you don't want anybody else to see the URL, you will encode it with special characters. If there is any problem with the codes or anything, you put encoding. And then you set the status. Any HTTP response will have a status. Like 200 is a success. Anything like 401 is like security error, or 404 is like request not found. 500 is a server error and stuff like that. That's how client knows something is broken on the server. Okay, we'll talk about cookies in shortly, like when we're talking about sessions. Okay, session management. Redirecting. Redirection can be set using the following methods in HTTP servlet response. Like that means server received a request from page 1. You want to redirect on the server side to a new page saying like, okay, I received this request. I submitted all the information that you gave me. And now I want to say success or failure to the customer, right? Like if you say sign up, you entered all the data, you submitted all the data, a user ID has been created. You should be informed that a user ID has been created, right? So you use redirection there. Like if you want to redirect to a new page called success page, right? So redirection can be set using the following methods. Set status 400, 500, 200 is a success, 400 is a failure. Okay, something like request cannot be displayed. All that is 400. 500 is a something, some exception happened on the server side. Okay. Set header, like sometimes you must have seen like, okay, you went onto a website and that website says, oh, we are actually moved to a different location, and we are redirecting in like next 3 seconds. If it doesn't redirect in next 3 seconds, use this URL. This kind of stuff you must have seen on the websites already, right? So all this is being implemented using set header. Like you define the new location, so and you will set the refresh interval as 3. That's when, okay, oh, this has been redirected, gets displayed, and it is going to be redirecting in next 3 seconds, and new website will be displayed in the next 3 seconds. This is for the backward compatibility, because you changed your URL, but you don't want to lose the old customers. You just want to inform them old customers from the old URL to the new URL. Okay, that's called redirecting. Generating HTML. So on the servlet, you actually hard code this HTML code, right? Like if you see here, you are actually writing HTML code within Java, right? You're actually writing all this HTML code within using PrintWriter in Java. Okay. So using an HTML generator requires additional software, HTML generation classes, and using okay. So if you want to make like a fancy HTML page, you cannot make a fancy HTML page using just the servlet. You want a JSP's help. JSP understands all HTML stuff, but servlet also understands, but it is cumbersome to maintain. Like each servlet needs to hard code all this stuff. It cannot be like reusable, and all that stuff. And also to write also it is difficult. Like it's not, it doesn't look beautiful, right? All the Java code has the hard coding stuff, and all that. That's why JSPs became popular. Okay. Then servlet can use status code and headers to inform the client to use another URL and all that. So now you know what a redirecting a request is. So servlet, HTTP servlet extends generic servlet. So you know all these methods that are available in HTTP servlet. So the service method supports HTTP 1.0 protocol. This method dispatches each request to the method designed to handle it. We know that, right? We override service method and invoke whether do get or do post or whatever. Generic servlet has only the service method, whereas HTTP servlet has service and also all these other methods. And one more important thing is all methods throw servlet exception and IO exception both. Okay. Then overriding methods. So servlet writer who wants to handle get and the head method must override the do get method in the servlet. Similarly, override do post, do put, do delete. We know this already. We begin this session using that. Note, servlets are fundamentally multi-threaded, hence can run multiple service methods. That means, okay, one other important thing that you know or should know is this is your class. You did not implement any threading, right? You did not do anything here, but because this component is running on a web server which is Tomcat, right? Automatically the concurrent requests, okay, concurrent requests can be handled. Okay. In the website I cannot control, I cannot tell you you are using my website and I cannot tell you don't use my website, right? I exposed it, you can use it however you want. I cannot stop you from using it in the way however you want, right? So that's why when you are doing multiple, when you are talking about web applications, you should really be thinking about thread safety and all that, because by default it is supporting multi-threading. That means multiple requests can come in. You have to handle it in your code wherever you want to handle thread safety, wherever you want to handle concurrent requests, and thinking concurrency in mind, you got to handle your code properly. Otherwise you will see undesirable effects. Okay. So by default it is all multi-threaded, and then therefore the code for the service method must be thread safe. That's what they are also referring to. If you do not want a multi-threaded server, then one must implement a single threaded model interface. That means you have to implement an interface called single threaded model. That's when multiple threads will not be supported, and which is like a making your class a standalone Java class. Okay, like a standalone Java class, only one request can be served, which is not good for a website. We cannot serve just one request, right? Think about Amazon.com. Right? It can be accessed from anywhere in the world, across the globe, 24 by 7, and any millions of users can access it at the same time. And you cannot say implement a single threaded model, which makes the traffic more cumbersome. That means you are making your application server to deal with only one thread at a time, which is like bad. You got to be, the reason why you exposed it as a website is because you want to handle more requests, right? And make it available for more people. then it is defeating the purpose if you are using a single threaded model. It's a more it's most frequently asked interview question. What is single threaded model? Okay. Then write a counter servlet that counts the number of clients served. Okay. So with your core Java background, assuming you guys know everything in core Java and you know now how to write a servlet, can you talk about um, how you can write a counter that counts the number of clients served? As we said, Tomcat is multi-threaded by default. Like all your servlets are default multi-threaded. So multiple threads come in. And how can you keep the counter? You invoked my servlet. That's the counter number one. I invoked it. That's counter two. Both are independent requests. Where will you store so it will be available globally? What will be the scope of your variable that makes it like globally available and you can print out the total number of clients that are being served by this servlet? It's a question to you guys. Like, what makes a global, like a variable global in a class? Are you guys with me? Did you understand the question?
Yes.
So what are the scopes of a variable in a class?
Public, Ravi?
Those are access specifiers. Within a class, how can you make a variable thread safe? Um, a variable is available for all methods. A variable that is available only for instance of that class. A variable that is available within a method. So that's more method local variable, right? So the scopes that I am referring to is if you put it as static, everybody will be able to access the same data and everybody can modify the same data, which is not thread safe. And when you put it in an object level, it is thread safe per se to the extent of each object. Like, right? Each instance will have the same scope. And if you put it in a method level, which is like totally thread safe, and the scope of it is within the method itself. So my question with this context is, what is the scope that you can put a variable in within the servlet that can make it accessible globally? Within a servlet, where will you put or how will you implement such that all the requests will be served by the servlet, but it is the same object? If you look at the servlet lifecycle, only one object has been created. Same object, but you can have a variable being modified by multiple threads. Where will you put it? You will put it at the static level, or will you put it at the object level, or will you put it at the service method level? Are you guys following my question?
Yes, Ravi.
So where will you put an object? Where will you put a variable so that you can count number of clients, number of clients served? You have a static scope. You
At
have a
the service level,
huh?
at the service means where we write this generic servlet over there.
Where you will put it? Where here?
Yes, Ravi. Because every time it will means every time it will ping, it will take another one count. Means every time we will go from public void to get, it will take one count.
So you're saying incremental logic will be in here. That is right.
Yes,
But
yes.
original variable will be where? Where do you put the variable? Where you declare the variable?
After HTTP servlet where str string is defined over here.
Over here.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what kind of variable that string str is?
It's static. No, it's public.
I'm not talking about the access specifier. I'm talking about the scope. That means global or
Okay.
static or
Uh,
instance level or method object level. The
Over
third
here,
one is
Ravi we will make as instance level, because every time it will go with one instance, it will take.
yeah. How many instances of a servlet will be there on a Tomcat server? In a servlet lifecycle, we have seen how many instances of a servlet will be there in a Tomcat. Guys, how many instances of a servlet will be there in a Tomcat server?
One,
Only one
Ravi?
servlet is created.
One.
Hmm.
Threads are many.
Yeah. So that means you can put it in a static level or a instance level.
Instance
No
level.
harm. Yeah. Okay. That was my question. Okay. Okay, so we have my counter.java, servlet.java. We'll just take a look at it. I'll not run it probably. But did you guys understand the question to begin with, or was the question confusing to you? Okay, so you can put it in the instance level. As you guys said, it will be here, incrementing it, and you keep displaying it. Okay, execute this. Fine. Then, okay, let's move on. So modify the above servlet so that if many users are accessing the variable count, it should be synchronized. So you want to put it as like if many users are accessing, okay, it should be synchronized. Let's see how you are going to make it synchronized if many users are accessing it. So you put the counter in the synchronized block. That's all. So only one counter get incremented at any point of time. Okay. So that way you're making sure you're capturing all the counts. Otherwise, two simultaneous requests come in, you may lose one counter increment in the previous example. Did you see the difference between this guy and this guy? This one, if two people increment it at the same time, you may lose something. Whereas here, we are making sure we are always executing in this code gets executed by only single thread. So that way you're making sure you are capturing everything. Okay. Fine. Then let's move on. Write a servlet that informs the client that the site has moved and let the browser go to the new URL automatically after 9 seconds. So you guys have to implement it. Relocate servlet.java is already there in the things that I shared. So you got to run that. Okay. Then request dispatcher.
Redirect.
Say that again.
We
Yeah.
can redirect it.
Yeah, you can redirect a URL. Let's see.
Mhm.
Did you hear location? Location in the HTTP header that when we were talking about that? Yeah, it's the same thing. Like in one of the previous slides, I was talking about it. Like status is temporarily moved in the header. You can put refresh time and the new URL that you want to display. Or you can also set the location, like either you can set the location like this, or you can set the refresh interval, and after 9 seconds it has to go to the new URL like this. Okay, like I was giving an example of like a particular website is being moved. Remember, if a particular website is moved, you might have seen these things in particularly sourceforge.net or somewhere. If you are downloading some jar file, oh okay, we moved it here, download should begin in certain seconds, otherwise please click here, something like that, right? So automatically they set a refresh interval to download. If it doesn't download, they actually uh, redirect you. So they use this kind of stuff there. Why are you so surprised, Rini? We can redirect. You had a question, or you were thinking we cannot redirect?
No, I just gave the answer.
You gave the answer. For what?
No, you were just reading that question, so I thought by the help of
Ah,
redirect we can do it.
okay, okay, okay. Fine. So this is all taken care. Okay. Then request dispatcher is the most predominantly asked interview questions. If I am asking you questions on servlets, I will definitely ask you about request dispatcher. Okay. So pay attention. So the basic use of request dispatcher. One can effectively use request dispatcher to call a JSP from a servlet or a servlet from another servlet. So if you want to invoke another servlet from a servlet, or if you want to redirect the request to a different servlet, a different JSP page, you're going to use request dispatcher. Okay? So so it is used for going from one request to other servlet, or from one servlet to other JSP. So the communication between servlet and JSP or servlet and servlet can happen using a request dispatcher. Good. So how do you get a handle of request dispatcher? You're going to say get servlet context dot get request dispatcher, and you're going to bring in welcome.jsp. Okay, so that means you need to know here what is a servlet context, right? So servlet context is a application level scope kind of thing in a web application. It knows everything about all your servlets. Okay, servlet context knows everything about all your servlets. And if you want to set something in a global scope, you will use a servlet context. Okay, fine. It knows everything about all the global instance parameters that you have put in your web.xml. So think about servlet context is like a class that read everything about your web.xml. Like whatever you specified in web.xml is all aware by servlet context. Okay, it is also a very important question. What is a servlet context? Everything about web.xml is known by servlet context. Okay, everything about your web application is known by servlet context. And there is also something called servlet config. Okay, what is it called? Servlet config. That is only about a particular servlet. Okay, that guy knows only about a particular servlet. That is a servlet config. Servlet context is a super of it, like it knows everything about all the servlets in your application. Servlet config is an object that knows only about one of those servlets. Okay, very very confusing interview question. People know the answer, but they give wrong answers. Servlet context is about everything in your application, web application. Servlet config only about your servlet. And what will you have in the servlet? Like init parameters and all that kind of stuff. Like init parameters, like when you are instantiating this particular servlet, what are the init parameters that it needs to take care of? Those all will be in servlet config. Servlet context, everything. I am repeating myself. Servlet context, it knows about all servlets, everything. Servlet config, it knows only about your servlet that you are referring to. Good. These two. Then request dispatcher. So you are getting a handle of request dispatcher from a servlet context. because that guy knows about everyone. And then you're invoking welcome.jsp and you're just including that, okay, in the request and response. That means that's where it is going to include the response that has been generated from welcome.jsp. Okay. Okay. While talking about request dispatcher, we have two methods in request dispatcher. One is include and another one is forward. Okay. Let's go to the API and discuss a little bit about request dispatcher. Okay. See, there are like two methods, forward and include. Okay. Forward will actually invoke the servlet or JSP that you included, and handle goes to that. Okay. Forwards a request from a servlet to another servlet. Includes the content of a resource. That means if you have included a JSP right now, welcome.jsp, it includes the welcome.jsp response in your current servlet. Like if current servlet is including some other resource, the response of that resource is also included in your current response. Okay. So in this response, it will include the whatever like if it is a JSP's response will be included, servlet response will be included. So how do you pass the handle from one servlet to another servlet or one servlet to another JSP is by using request dispatcher dot forward. Okay.
No,
What's up? Question?
no,
Okay. Okay. So request dispatcher dot forward is how you communicate from one servlet to another servlet or one servlet to another JSP. Request dispatcher dot include is where you will include the response of a static page or some other JSP page or some other servlet in your response. Okay, that's how we will use include. Okay, very important. Why do you use request dispatcher? To get that. Okay, fine. And
When do we use forward method?
say that again.
Forward.
Forward is to forward the handle. Like from this servlet, if I want to invoke this servlet, I will use forward then.
I mean exact use of that.
Exact use to redirect the JSP pages. Like say for example, you're done with all this, right? You're done with all the stuff. Right now you're displaying everything on the same page. Now instead, this MVC pattern is there, right? View, it clicks on that. You submitted the data and you want to confirm to the user that the data has been submitted, right? So you want to redirect from page A to success page. If there is an error, you want to redirect to an error page. That means you will have two different pages there. One is success, one is a failure, right? So if it is successful, you want to forward it to success page. If it is a failure, you want to forward to a failure page. That's when you use a request dispatcher. You can use a send redirect also, which is there in the response. But when you use send redirect, browser knows everything. Browser knows everything. When you use send redirect, browser knows that you are redirecting it from a different servlet. Whereas if you use a request dispatcher dot forward, client is not aware of what is happening on the server. Okay, so say for example, you hit servlet A, which is like publicly exposed, and you hit a company's firewall, right? Within the firewall, they may process it in by interacting with n different applications that they have. But ultimately, when you are sending back a response, you want to expose only the public stuff that is being exposed. Once you hit internal to firewall, you don't want to expose anything to the customer. Then you are going to use something like this request dispatcher, where you're going to use only forward method, So client is not aware of what is happening on the server internally. It knows only, it can keep track of only anything that happened only outside, publicly exposed on the firewall. It doesn't know anything internal to the firewall. Understood?
Yeah.
Like browser will not be aware of it. Like if you start showing everything in the browser, so it's not secure, because anybody can track your application, anybody can know what is happening to your request, and they can filter your requests. You see what I'm saying? So servlet, by the time servlet or request processing happens, you hit bunch of layers like security, validation, whether a particular session is valid or not, whether he's an intruder or whether he's a original guy or not. All these checks happen, and that's when you process a request, right? So at that stage, whatever happens, you don't want to use a send redirect again. Like, because when you use send redirect, it can give track of everything, like what all request actually went through. That's harmful. You don't want to expose it to people, all that stuff, right? You want to expose only the end response. Okay, that's when you are going to use forward. Okay, if it is send redirect, browser will know everything. Like you can bookmark those URLs. If browser knows everything, they can bookmark those URLs. Like you have a module, say validate their payment and then do an order processing. You started using send redirect method. What happens? They may actually bookmark a uh, order confirmation or order request URL, and they can keep on hitting that URL, right? We don't want to do that. We don't want to expose that kind of stuff, which is like a potential bug, right? And harmful bug to your system. Instead, we say forward. So all they do is always they can see only sending a request and then going back to confirmation. Only those two steps we want to expose. But internally, like when you place a request again, yeah, his credit card gets debited again, so he is responsible for it. So that's why he'll not initiate it again. Otherwise he may initiate it, because validation step is passed and people may take advantage of the URLs that you are exposing. Making sense?
Yes.
It depends on the kind of request that you are actually dealing with. Like if it is a movie, you are okay. YouTube guys may don't care, or Indian movie websites may don't care if even if you bookmark a particular movie URL. But if it is a payment application, you really care about all this stuff, right? So that's where you use. You get to judge which one to use. Making sense?
Yes.
Okay. So there is a catch here. Okay, this request dispatcher guy can be. You can get it from either servlet context or also from servlet request. Okay. Okay. So you have seen get servlet context dot this one here, right? You can also get it from request dot get request dispatcher, right?
What is the difference between both?
What's the difference between what?
Getting from the servlet context and getting
Yeah,
from the
yeah, I'm
request.
about to say that. Yeah, that's an important interview question. That's why I'm like wherever I'm saying important interview question, you guys have to be thorough in that. Okay, so get the request dispatcher. The difference here is the kind of path that you pass. Here, any path that you pass here is relative to your web context. That means servlet context is like a what? Think about it like your servlets in our servlets.var, right? Servlets project, right? That's our web context I mentioned, right? Application context or web context. So anything that you got, any request dispatcher that you got from servlet context is relative to your web application context. Understood? Is relative to your web application context. Whereas the one that you got from servlet request is relative to this particular servlet. not the web application context. Making sense? uh, you hit this URL, like you hit this URL, which one? This URL. So if you got the request dispatcher from servlet request, it will be like slash on that, slash that, like that. Okay, slash dot JSP or something like that. Or slash, if you take that case, welcome.jsp. Whereas if you have taken it from web application context, like a servlet context, the request dispatcher that is looking for a resource is at this layer. Making sense? It's relative to the root application context, whereas the other one is at the request context, like the current context that you are on. Okay, based on that it will look for your resources. That means if you are looking for a JSP page, if you are looking for a JSP page at this layer, uh, if you are looking for a JSP page, um, if you are looking for a JSP page at this location may not exist as a folder structure here, and it may throw errors, right? Only this particular JSP, only this guy knows, nobody else knows. And if you are for sure there is some context like after this, then you are going to use it from request context. If you know it is from application context, then you are going to use the other approach. Making sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So very, very important interview question. Okay. One takes relative to the servlet context, other one takes relative to the servlet. And also you can make sure you pass an absolute path when you are talking about servlet request dot gets request dispatcher. This takes slash something, right? There you got to give absolute path. Absolute path is nothing but from the root context you got to give like it doesn't take slash like this. You got to give absolute path. That's one other difference. This takes relative path, which is like a with a slash, but that doesn't take with a slash. It takes with from a it takes it using an absolute path. Absolute path meaning you have to say just welcome.jsp there. You should not say slash. It will not find the resource. Okay. Um, we have a case study like if you look at our Java training thing, 26 and 27. This is my first project in when I started my career. Okay. So this has all these communications, how to use various stuff. So whatever we learn this week and next week will all be part of this. So then you will understand and visualize more and more stuff. But for now, for interviews, you should know the concept, which is servlet request and request dispatcher. You can get the request dispatcher from servlet context or servlet request. But the difference between those two is one takes it from application relative to application, other one takes it from the current path, and one takes the relative path, other one doesn't take the relative path. It needs the absolute path to be posted. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Then sending multimedia content, like to send an image that is available with the server to the client, open a stream to the client browser, open the local image file, read the blocks byte by byte, and send the information to from the server to the client. Okay. So write a servlet that sends an image to the browser. Image file must be on the server. So we have servlet image.java. Let's take a look at that. Okay. So what are we trying to do? We are reading a file that is available on, it should be available on the server underneath images folder, right? We read that file. We set the MIME type, like depending on the MIME type, it is GIF or whatever, we put that content type to the response. And what we are doing here, we know how to read a file and convert it into a byte stream. We iterate through the byte by byte and set it to the servlet output stream. And you close the servlet output stream and you're good. That will actually display it on the browser. Like the image that is there on the server, you got to hit this servlet. Once you hit this servlet, it reads the image from the server and displays it on the UI. That's how you can display an image that's available on the server. Okay. So execute this and let me know if you run into any issues. I want you guys to be like more interactive in these sessions because if you don't understand the servlet concept, later any framework that your company may use, we may be discussing like struts, which is famous, and spring MVC and stuff like that. But any other framework that your company may use, um, those all will be on request response session and all this stuff on the web UI layer or a web tier layer. So you will understand those pretty much quickly if you know these fundamentals. Okay, that's good. So you know how to read a servlet image, and then if we write two images to the application, it will read only the first one. Hence, one can send only one image at a time. But if you want to send two images, you have to write a code to handle two images. So I will upload these, like write a servlet that sends two images tags to the client. Okay, so I'll upload these and run the examples. Okay, so specify user authentication. So what is user authentication? Specify in the resource list, like servlet resource, what type of authentication that you want to use. Once set, then the browser gives a dialog box and sends the username and password to the servlet. So you want to specify whether you're using basic authentication or base 64 authentication. So like that, you want to specify for each of those resources. So how to deal with it? Let's look at the secure servlet. Okay. So how to make your servlet secure? So here we said, okay, do get and all that. And here we said request authentication, request.get authentication type. And we also need a web.xml probably for the secure servlet. Let's see. To this request, I think we got to set the let's try executing this. I'll not leave it to you guys. Let me execute it. Okay, so our servlet name is secure servlet. Let's try hitting the servlet. I think there's nothing much. You know how to execute it probably. Secure servlet, and you just invoke servlet slash secure. Okay. Okay. So what's the URL pattern that I need to use? What's the URL pattern that I need to use? Can somebody tell me?
Server secure server.
Okay, let's see. Like this, right? Yeah, let me put debug in the secure server. So what does it say? So our application do not know about it. Okay, okay. So it hit here. Let's try again. Said user null authentication null. So authentication set on the server. Solid object. So nothing in there, right? Right now it says login info, request.get remote user, and it get authentication, right? So all it needs is the name of the user, right? So you got to configure probably. Let's go to web.xml. Why it doesn't show anything? So you got to specify the authentication scope. I'm just trying to see in the web.xml schema. Why it is not showing me any schema available? But once I put it, it will actually show. Okay. So you can specify like this, like security constraints. So now probably you guys must have understood how web.xml is like heart of our application, right? URL pattern is how you link up everything. So you're going to put URL pattern here, and then what's the other one? Web resource name is secure servlet. Okay. So what's the error that it says? Description can be one of the web resource name. I'll not put any description. It's fine. What else it's complaining about? Description here as well. So let me see. What is it saying? Found starting with element one of web resource name is expected. Okay. I think what is it? Server web resource name. I think servlets. Let me actually remove that. Let's see what happens. Okay, probably invalid content was found with element description. Okay, one of the probably we need to have a web resource name or something like that. Probably. Let me see. Still, oh, it should be starting with this. I probably. Invalid content type was found starting with this. It should be one of this HTTP method is found. So must be URL pattern, or let me see. Invalid content was found starting with element user data constraint. Instead, instead one of display name or something should be displayed used. So within this, well, maybe we'll put Yeah, XML order may be important. Yeah. What's the next one? Invalid content was found starting with element this. I think I can get rid of this guy. Starting with auth constraint. Starting with auth constraint. Instead, what should it be? No chained element is expected at this point. Why? Okay. All right. So now let's try what this is going to give. Okay. So now if you go look at your secure servlet, auth type is important here, right? Request.get auth type. So here in our web.xml, see the request.get auth type, get user principal. So we are not passing anything new here. Here we are not passing anything new, but still did we get request.auth type. So auth type, welcome to this page, auth mechanism. Okay. I just want to provide an auth type and see how it is. But this is not required in my opinion, but I'm just making sure that I'll show the right one. See, access to this request resource has been denied because of security constraints that we put in. Okay? So that's why they have to establish connections and everything, because we put this one. Okay? Because we are not passing any role or anything. So that's how you can bring in security. But this is not what I want to show. I want to show authentication type. Let's go back and see. That's how you can make your application secure. But auth type, how it can come in. Let's go back here. Statement. Statement null. User and authentication. Okay. Authorization set on the server, login for user, authentication. What kind of authentication we are using can be displayed there. But if you were to show the value, let me see. But how does this differ, right? Okay, so let me see. Okay, I can show this probably tomorrow. Well, we have a session tomorrow as well. I don't want to keep you guys. I can actually do this tomorrow.